I'm going to say, if you're still crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about.
Not too long ago, I posted a video about blanket training. I was actually not surprised to come along and notice that Micheal Pearl had been accused of being somewhat responsible for some children who had actually been abused. These were parents that had taken advice out of his book called How to Train a Child.
Children are being beaten and getting killed by their parents in the name of discipline. Now, Micheal Pearl, I have to ask you about this. How do you feel about this book being in the homes, underlined, people folding over pages, using your book to do this kind of discipline, and it ending the lives of 2 children? What's your response to that?
It's really sad that these kind of things happen. I tell you what, I wish our book was in the home of all abusing parents, because if they'd paid attention to what we say in the book, if they'd actually listened to what we said, then they would not have abused their children. Thumping him on the head? You're worried about that? Give me another question. We talked about that. Carry him home and train him.
Do you believe you have any responsibility here for what these other families did?
Absolutely not. Our responsibility is to keep families from abusing their children.
How hard should the reinforcement be?
What?
In the book, they describe a rod as a magic wand. God would not have commanded parents to use the rod if it were not good for the child.
In the book, you sort of encourage people to hit and hit with objects.
No, I never used the word hit anywhere in the book.
Oh, spank with objects.
Spank.
With
yes.
objects.
Yes. You see that hand right there?
Yeah, it looks
nasty. If I were
nasty.
to hit a child with that hand, it would hurt them.
Yes.
I would never hit a child with that hand. Now, if there's a little old lady with a little willowy hand, I can understand her maybe using her hand to spank, but I wouldn't do that.
I'd probably use a belt. It'd be handy. I might use a wooden spoon or a piece of like plumbing supply line, 1/4 inch in diameter, flexible enough to roll up.
Flexible. See, what I'm saying here is, why not just use your hand instead of all these materials?
Hey, look here. Let's see.
Right here, let me show you something.
Does that hurt?
Doesn't feel good.
But look what it's doing. Look what it's doing to your whole body. See your hip? You don't use your hand on somebody. That's a karate
But
chop.
you're telling me that when you use this material that it can't cause a permanent pain?
The skin.
My children never had marks left on them.
The thumping or the little spanking that Shoshana Shalom got on the stair, just, you know, it wasn't like turning them over and giving them a wearing out whipping. It's like hitting her on the back of her calf as she starts up the stairway with a little switch about that long, smaller than a pencil, something that got off a willow tree, that just stings the back of her leg. And so he would call that hitting a child. But I never used my hand to hit a child. My hand is for loving the children.
Any spanking to effectively reinforce instruction must cause pain.
Punish him with the rod severely. That's what you do to screamers around here. If you have fun, it'll be a lot easier training. If he screams too hard with the first 5, gets hysterical, wait. You know, a little psychological terror is sometimes more effective than the pain.
Oh, wow.
If they'd paid attention to what we say in the book, if they'd actually listened to what we said, then they would not have abused their children.
So I think that's the biggest problem when people are talking about whether they're disciplining their child and whether they're abusing their child. From listening to Micheal, he definitely doesn't think he's abusing children because he considers what he does is smacking. He believes that his book teaches parents how not to abuse their children.